This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. Today, we find ourselves speaking with Susan McNaughton, who is joining us all the way from Graceland down in Stellenbosch, South Africa. How are you today, Susan?
Very good. Nice to meet you.
Now, I need to ask you, first of all, what has been going on in South Africa with regards to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic? With regards to the level of lockdown, the dates that these lockdown regulations came into place, and your personal opinion upon the way that your government is managing this ongoing pandemic.
The government lockdown started on the 26th of March. We were given 2 days notice. I had already closed the tasting room and overseas visitors onto the vineyard because we have staff that don't live on the property that come on to the farm. And I did it for their safety because I would have been the conduit, being in contact with overseas travel, because the first case in South Africa were people who had been skiing in Italy.
Right.
And that went quite quickly. And in fact, 80% of the initial infections came from the UK because that was quite lax. And so we started being pretty strict and put in place things. We were in harvest, so we were really busy, but we closed to international people on the farm.
And how severe is the lockdown?
We have the severest lockdown conditions, restrictions in the world.
Oh, wow.
We're the only country that you can't buy alcohol.
Wow, no alcohol whatsoever.
I've never had so many jealous friends because we have stock, and it's actually been fantastic for us because people say, what do you drink at night with your meal? And it's usually what's left over from the tasting room.
Right.
So now we've been digging deep into our cellar and drinking older vintages and being so happy with seeing how our wine holds up and being able to experience that. So that's the good part.
But you are at the same time depleting your library stocks there.
I think we've got a fair amount.
Okay.
So we've been making wine for 20 years. So we've got 6 wines times 20 years. We've got a lot of vintages that we can go through. So it's social distancing. You can't go out at all their roadblocks. I've hardly been out. My husband's actually been doing the shopping.
Right.
And I've only been to the co-op to buy cover crop to put in the rows. I have one staff member working on the farm. Well, he was off completely for 2 weeks. And then the two of us did the cover crop on our own because we can't get anyone here. And if you are caught on the road without the correct papers and a reason why you are out there, it's a 2,500 Rand fine, which is about $200.
Okay.
The first time, and then the second time it's double that, and the third time it's jail.
Wow. And how have people been following those directions from your government regarding the lockdown?
Actually, incredibly well. We have really stood united. We personally, I'm very proud of our president. I think he's given a clear message. He's conveyed it well. There have been other breakdowns in the system with other ministers, which has been a problem. I'll get back to that now. The informal settlements, where the poorer people live, that's really difficult.
Yes.
You know, they live in small confined spaces, but they do have shops and food is being transported in there. I'm in contact with our staff all the time. I keep on saying to them, I'm paying you to stay at home. Be careful, be wise. You'll come back to work as soon as you can. And they're being very respectful. But if you look on the television, there's lots of people who are not keeping social distancing. So it's a problem. It's difficult.
I think there are people who disobey such things in every single country. The scofflaws who think it's still think it's some kind of hoax. It blows my mind, to be quite honest. At the winery itself, if you don't mind me asking, how has all of this impacted your business?
Well, zero income, not one invoice.
Right.
We also have not been, we are the only country in the world we haven't been able to export. And
Yes.
I actually have an order, a purchase order for small winemakers sitting
In
waiting
Canada.
at the
Yes.
freight forwarders.
Oh wow.
So my husband quickly delivered it the day of lockdown because they said get it to the warehouse and if it frees up, it's there. And after a week, they said, okay, exports can go. And it was about to go, but it must be quite difficult with logistics because the ship it was meant to be on left and then another one. And we missed it by a day because then another minister said, no exports. So it's still waiting. We will hear, the president has said exports will start this week, but there's a minister who's not saying what, and she could change it. And the Minister of Transport has said no alcohol on the road at all, not even to port. So we will hear tomorrow. But it's a billion rand business, export money, wine for South Africa. And we employ 300,000 people in the wine industry. So not allowing exports is actually punishing the people that really need the work
Yes,
and the jobs.
For those of our viewers who are unaware of the reasoning behind this block on alcohol on the road, would you mind explaining what happened that made them bring about this ruling?
There's several reasons. I think the main one is really keeping hospital beds free for if you need it, which it has. There's a lot less trauma beds.
Oh, because of the alcohol intake. Ah, right. Okay.
And I think if you do drink, you tend to make irrational decisions and not keep your social distancing. But it has led to home brews and other and black market.
Yes, and also, and I mean, another thing that I was wondering about, perhaps in Ontario, they were going to close down the LCBO here, but one of my friends pointed out that that could cause its own problems because of people who have an alcohol issue. If they suddenly withdraw like that, that could also fill up hospital beds. Has that been an issue within South Africa?
I believe that could be an issue. Obviously, we haven't heard about that. They also stopped cigarette sales, so that's another
Double whammy for many people. Yes, yeah.
So I'm quite sure that there are situations that could arise from that. But I'm sure the black market, I'm not aware of it. I haven't been off the property unless for emergencies. So I'm unaware of it. Yeah.
Interesting. And has your government spoken about a roadmap out of the lockdown situation?
Very good. Our president is communicating properly and well, Cyril Ramaphosa. We go into, so it was initially 2 weeks from the 26th of March, and then they extended it by another 2 weeks, which takes us to Friday the 1st, but that's a public holiday anyway, and it's a Friday. And now he's categorized it into levels. So we're in level 5 now, which is the strictest lockdown.
Yes.
Next week we go into level 4, which frees up agricultural work, but our staff can come back, but they need papers. So we've got the papers and we WhatsApp pictures to them. They'll get you and then they'll carry that paper with them.
Right.
You have to wear masks. Mining went back partially. I'm not sure exactly on the detail because there's been no manufacturing, no production.
Right.
So he's level 4 will slowly start manufacturing and production, but winter clothes, you can shop online winter clothes because there's been no online shopping except for emergency food, literally only food. You cannot buy a light bulb or a battery. I thought a battery was...
Wow. What is the thinking behind that? Just to keep the supply lines open for the delivery of food?
I think uh, y- I can't. It actually makes no sense. A
Yes,
lot of it.
yeah, I know. Wow. Goodness me.
It's very, very difficult. And they've had, you can't exercise, you can't cycle, you can't walk your dogs, you cannot be outside. And if you're outside, you must say where you're going. And if you are not near a shop, you will be arrested or fined.
Wow.
So that, and there are apparent, I haven't, as I said, I've hardly been off the property, so I haven't seen a roadblock, but you have to give all your details, your phone number, where you're going, why you're going, no visiting, no, nothing, not on the street.
Wow. And you mentioned your harvest. Did you manage to get the entire harvest in before all of this happened?
We were so lucky, really. Harvest was very tricky this year. As we've had many years of drought, and it it didn't start. I didn't start earlier. A lot of people did start earlier. I let it hang. The sugars were going extremely high, but I couldn't taste the phenolic ripeness. So I thought I'd rather deal with alcohol than greenness.
Right.
So I let the grapes hang literally till the 11th hour, and then it was the shortest harvest from beginning to end. So we're very lucky because virus delays ripening, and if you've got virus in your vineyards, they were hanging because it wasn't ripening. We got it in, we finished everything. We got, on the day of lockdown, we got everything into tank.
Wow.
So
That's good news.
it was, yeah, it was very, very good. But it was the quickest, shortest harvest in the 22 years I've been making wine.
Perhaps just as well, all things considered.
We've really been lucky. We've everything's been fine, and it's my husband and we couldn't get analysis initially. They wouldn't allow analysis because initially they said no production. So there were a lot of lobbyists, and they let wineries finish their production that hadn't finished, but that took a bit of lobbying. And then the laboratory that we used for analysis eventually got permission to open an hour a day. And so I'm watching my one tank is going to finish Malo tomorrow, and we'll rack it off. And I'll have it analyzed tomorrow, but I know it's finished. The others are still going through. So at least I can get analysis. And I've got one staff member until next week, so we can manage. We'll rack it off. We'll do it.
The two of you can do all of that.
Yes, we'll do it. It's slow, but we'll do
Okay.
it. And and we had all our barrels delivered beforehand. It was just really fortuitous. It wasn't because I knew anything or planned anything. I was pretty organized, and so I wasn't in a pickle at all.
Well, Susan, I'm very glad to hear that, and to hear that you're all safe and well. Thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution. Perhaps we'll catch up with you sometime in the future, maybe a couple of months down the road. We'll see where everything's at. And in the far future, perhaps I'll see you for a glass of wine in Toronto.
I hope so. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.